Good morning, everyone. Hope you've all had a wonderful week so far. For those of you in Alabama, I'm just thankful that this Friday we don't have any snow. But what I thought would be interesting, kind of following up from my message a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the index and talking about the S&P 500, is I wanted to take a look at really the investing universe as a whole. And what I mean by that is the different investable asset classes. We're going to put this graph up here for most of the video. I don't see a whole lot of reason why you're looking at me, especially when I'm sitting here reading the same thing, and I want you guys to be able to follow along. So what you are seeing here, this is from JP Morgan. They put out a really interesting set of data called Guide to the Markets at the end of every year. I always find it fascinating. They have a lot of really good visuals. I myself am a visual learner. So what this is showing, this is looking at a bunch of different asset classes. So you have large caps, small caps, bond investments, cash, commodities, you name it. But they're tracking annualized returns going back to 2010 all the way up through the end of last year. And you'll hear this called many different things. I've heard it called an investment quilt before. Just pick any particular color. So the first one that caught my eye is light blue. It's REITs, or real estate investments. So notice going back to 2010 here, so they really got off to a hot start. The highest performing asset class in 2010, 11, and 12. They took a step back in 13, but again, we're at the top of the list in 14 and 15. Now, there's a number of reasons behind this. The first thing that comes to mind, if we can remember back in 2007, 2008, you had the great financial crash and you had the housing market collapse. So you saw values really depressed, and if this chart were to go back to capture that time period, I'm sure you would see the real estate investments towards the bottom of this chart. But since we're picking up in 2010, they had a nice rebound, obviously, at that point in time. But then you'll notice other years, 2016, middle of the pack, 2017, down towards the bottom. And then in 2020 and 2022, they were the worst performing asset class. So let's pick another one, following in line with what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Let's look at large cap. So large cap is your light green. And really the last number of years here, so best performing asset class in 2024 and in 2023, as well as 2019, up towards the top in 2020 and 2021 as well. And really, if you look across the board, it has hovered for the last 14 years towards the top or towards the middle. And this is not always going to be the case. We kind of hinted on that when we talked about just investing in the volatility in general, but how the market has been driven by the larger corporations, the Magnificent Seven, and those fall into the large cap category. But what always catches my attention, and we talk about this in our class, is you're going to have asset classes rotate. You're going to have sectors rotate. And the important thing is allocating your investments appropriately. So the white boxes, and that also coincides with the line kind of going across the middle, this is the asset allocation model. And the bottom down there in the fine print, JP Morgan kind of identifies what is making up their model. But in my mind, in order to do diversification correctly, there should always be something in your portfolio you're unhappy with. Now, I'll hear, pushback and jest that I don't want to be unhappy with anything. Well, in 2024, if you had a large portion of your portfolio in fixed income getting 1.3%, you probably weren't too happy. Or cash at 5.3%. You're sitting there thinking, well, I could have had, large cap stocks doing 25%. Let's go back just a couple of years in 2022. Cash was one of the top performing asset classes, where large cap was down there towards the bottom, middle of the bottom. So again, it's important. I think the takeaway here is that you should be allocated in a number of different asset classes and a number of different investments, not solely just focused on one given thing. Thank you guys. Sorry this was a little bit of a longer video. And as a quick reminder, we do have our classes coming up at Sanford here in a couple weeks. The first one starting on January the 28th. So please, if you know anyone you think would benefit from attending, please pass this information along, pass the message along, and you can find out more details on our website. That is thebenjamingroup.biz. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.